What impact has visualization had on your success on the golf course?
I literally imagine myself, transport myself to the range while I'm on the golf course.
What were some of the sacrifices that maybe other people haven't seen along your journey?
You know, you're a million miles away from anyone, you know, who cares about you, who loves you, and all those things have made me a lot stronger as a person.
Hello and welcome to Coffee Charge Conversations here at Real Global Productions. Today we are joined by Dylan Naidoo, who is a professional golfer. He's played on the Sunshine Tour, the Corn Ferry Tour, as well as the DP World Tour. Dylan, welcome to Coffee Charge Conversations.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited about this.
So when did you first pick up a golf club, and what drew you to golf initially?
I think one of the main things that drew me to golf was just how little I needed other people around to practice. I played a lot of cricket, a lot of tennis growing up, and with those sports, you need someone to bowl to you in the net, you need someone to hit tennis balls with, you need someone to practice with you. And I was always just a kid who, I could play hours and hours and hours of sport, and golf was the easiest one to do by myself. I didn't need anyone else there with me, so I could just have at it for as long as I wanted. And I think because of that, I was able to improve faster than I could in other sports.
Okay. And how has your time been on the Sunshine Tour? What have you enjoyed the most so far?
My time on this tour, I'd say the most enjoyable parts are probably the friendships that you have. You know, the dinners after long rounds of golf where we're just talking some crap and just, enjoying our time together. It's the underrated parts of being on the Sunshine Tour that when I'm traveling overseas, you don't quite have as much of that. You don't have your mates around. And I mean, the guys who I travel with on Sunshine Tour are the guys who I've known most of my life. We've played junior golf together, we played amateur golf together, and now we're playing pro golf together. So those friendships, the camaraderie, that's probably the best part for me.
So what was the biggest challenge transitioning from amateur golf to professional golf?
I think there were a lot of challenges that maybe go under the radar. For the first time, you're not traveling on someone else's budget. A lot of the trips that I did as an amateur, I was fortunate enough to be a part of Central Gauteng, be a part of the national squads, being a part of all those fantastic bodies that, are able to fund a lot of the travel. And now you're looking at a season of playing professional golf where it's on you, or your parents or sponsors or whoever can help out. And I think that was, for me, my first year on tour was very much trying to figure out okay, how do I do this? How do I manage my finances? How do I create an environment where I can just go play, because that's very different to amateur golf where you can kind of freewheel it a little bit, In pro golf, the difference between missing a cut and making a cut is, it feels monumental even now. I've been a pro for 5 years now, and it's still, I missed the cut by one shot last week, and it still really grates me that happens, because it's the difference between making money and going home empty-handed.
And after a round like that, let's say you didn't even play that badly, how do you get your mind off of golf after a round like that?
I think it takes a little bit of time. It's not as seamless as just, walking off the golf course and breathing a sigh of relief and moving on. I think it takes maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes where you can do a silent reflection. I'll either have something to eat or, just kind of sit by myself and go, okay, let's reflect on this round. What really happened today? And once you're able to come to terms with the decisions that you made, the shots that you've hit, then I think you can leave it behind fully. But if you don't have that time to reflect, then you're just holding it with you, and slowly, it seeps out as the rest of the day goes on.
So golf's always been seen as a game where you need money to play. What are some of the financial challenges that you face, especially as a pro?
I don't think people understand quite how much money is necessary for golf, because they think of team sports, football, cricket, whatever, where you're part of a team and all your expenses are taken care of when you're on the road. Golfers, we take care of everything. We have to pay our own coaches. We have to, depending on equipment, if you're lucky enough to have a sponsor. For my first few years on tour, I didn't have a sponsor. Now I fortunately do in Titleist for clubs. But we take care of all our travel expenses too, our hotels, all the meals that we're having. So it's a lot more than I think people sometimes can realize goes into it from a financial perspective. I'm very, very fortunate to have the sponsors that I have on. And it's no accident that I'm wearing the clothes that I'm wearing today, because any opportunity I get to be able to show the brands that have helped me along the way, it's very, very important to me, because there's no way I would be where I am. There's no way I'd be able to play overseas if I didn't have these people supporting me.
So, I mean, I've even heard of like little hidden costs that I didn't really know about, like the yardage book. I didn't know, I mean, how important a yardage book was, but everyone pays for a yardage book for tournaments. I mean, that's, quite an important aspect.
For sure. I mean, every week you're paying for a yardage book. Every week you're paying your entry fee. Every week you're paying your caddy. And if you don't, there's no way you can compete. If a lot of guys only get one yardage book, depending on the caddy you get. I've always done 2 yardage books. My caddy will get one and I will get one. Because when you're stepping out yardages and calculating distances and stuff, it's very, very easy to make a mistake. Like, it's small arithmetic that you, instead of minusing 8 yards, you plus 8 yards by mistake. And now you've got a 16-yard discrepancy. If you have a second guy who's also doing the yardages, he's going to go, whoa, no, you messed that one up, And that saves you a shot over a tournament. And one shot over a tournament will pay your yardage book back inevitably.
For sure.
But if you're strapped for cash, it can be difficult to see all those little gains as important,
And you mentioned having a good caddy. What do you kind of look for in a caddy?
I think it's changed a lot over the years. My first few years on tour, it was someone who's a level-headed guy who can, find his way to tournaments. We go to all sorts of weird and wonderful places on this tour. And if you can't manage your travel and manage your side of things, then it becomes a burden on me to take care of that, So I think that was the first thing. As I've gone along, I've understood more about course management myself. So I think I've taken on a lot more of I wouldn't say the burden, but just the understanding. I've owned that part of the game a little bit more. So I don't need to rely on a caddy to do that. That's more on me and my preparation beforehand. I like someone who can, I can have a good time with. Right now, the guy who I've got is one of my good buddies is injured, Luca Filippi, and I'm using his caddy right now. And he's been great. Sometimes you don't need someone who knows too much. I need someone who can agree with what I'm saying, who can give me the confidence in my decisions, and we go from there. And that's sometimes just all I need.
Almost like someone just to validate you, support you, make you feel a little bit more confident.
For sure, yeah. And sometimes it's just a simple word of like, yeah, you've got the right club there, trust it. Like that, something as small as that, when you're a little bit like, I'm not sure between these two, and he just goes, no, that's the right club. Like, have confidence in it, you got the right club, trust it, you can hit the shot. That's it. Sometimes it's as small as that and you're good to go,
What does your internal dialogue look like now as opposed to when you were an amateur?
Very different. I think now I'm almost I can see myself as a third person in the room almost. I'm observing my thoughts a little bit more than what I did as an amateur. And now I think I have a lot more clarity in the decisions I'm making, which, I've gone down a serious rabbit hole in terms of the strategy of golf and the math behind it and understanding exactly, okay, I've made a decision that's has taken into account all the factors that are available to me, and I can trust that I've made the right decision. Whether I execute the shot or not, that's just up to whatever the situation is, and if I'm feeling good, if I'm not, whatever. But I've chosen the right club, I've aimed appropriately for the target, and now it's just time to hit it. And I think my dialogue now is a lot more simple than what it was when I was an amateur.
Do you feel like you used to almost overcomplicate things and overthink in a way?
Yeah, maybe what's weird is it's probably more factors that I've calculated or more variables that I take into account now to make it a more singular decision that's being made. There's less conflict of like, okay, should I be aiming here? Should I be aiming there? No. I've got the right target. Let's go, you know? Whereas in amateur golf, there are times where I've played great, you know, being ultra aggressive, and there's times where I've played great being more conservative than the average person. But now I play correct golf, and that just makes my life much more clear, you know?
And is that almost just going with your gut, your intuition now?
No, not necessarily gut or intuition. There's quite a like system that I've stumbled across or that I've worked towards, and it's taken time, you know, understanding the dispersion, understanding my, you know, shot dispersion, what percentage works for me, and there's a lot more math involved than previously. And like I take for instance, let's say blackjack, right? Like hitting on 17 is not a good strategy ever. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to push for something or not. It's just not a good plan.
Yes.
You know? And that's kind of where I'm at with golf in the moment. I know when I'm supposed to hit and when I'm supposed to stand, you know, and having that clarity just makes it so much easier.
And I feel like that's almost like an ego thing. You know, when you're sitting on a par 5, second shot, it's a little bit further than you're comfortable with. But sometimes your ego kind of just takes over and says, oh, no, you know, be the big dick, go for it. And that can hurt you, especially when you're playing for money, you know?
For sure. I think one of the biggest things about pro golf that people don't understand is that bogey avoidance is probably more important than the number of birdies you make. On average, you're going to be I'm making 3.5 to 4 birdies around. And, you know, that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're making 1 bogey around, 1.5 bogeys around, you're averaging 2.5 under par, you know? And it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I can go, no, I know what's necessary, I know what's needed. And sometimes the supposedly more aggressive play is actually the correct play too. Conservative can sometimes hurt you. Like there's a few par 4s where I am 100% hitting driver where not a lot of other guys are, but it's because I've looked at the satellite images, I know the width across from hazard to hazard, and I just trust I'm aiming it at the middle and going for it because I know I've got enough space to hit it, you know? Which is, I think sometimes people think of pro golf as like ultra conservative, but being too conservative can hurt you too.
Yeah. But do you think almost once you start making a few bogeys or a double here and there, do you think that almost just breaks the momentum? Is that why you capitalize on not making bogeys?
Yeah, I think bogeys are mentally not good and also in your score not good. But the big thing that I'm trying to work towards, it's very difficult, but I'm getting better at it slowly, and there's still hiccups along the way, is playing each shot with no recognition of my overall score. Like, take the context completely out of every single golf shot. Like, whether I'm 5 over or 5 under, this is the correct shot to hit, and I'm going to hit it. And I'm, like, taking that narrative away has been freeing, especially when I'm playing really well. And even when I'm playing badly, I think it just gives me a concrete foundation to lay all the principles that I want to play golf with, you know? Even if I'm playing badly, this is the shot I need to hit, you know? And when I'm playing well, I'm starting to get to the point where I don't even know what score I'm on, which is like, when I was a junior, I would have never thought I could do that. And now it's becoming a reality where I get to like 5, 6, 7 under, and I honestly have no idea what I'm at. Like, it's just hit the next shot, hit the shot in front of you, hit the shot in front of you. And when you remove that narrative of like, oh, I'm 7 under, maybe I need to hold on to the round or whatever. Like those stories you tell yourself,
Yes.
they're self-fulfilling prophecies at the end of the day. Like, and I've seen it especially around cut lines for myself. Like when I play to a score, when I'm worried about a score or thinking about a cut line, my score will inevitably kind of gravitate around that score. Like if the cut is level par, I'll finish 1 under, level par, 1 over, you know, kind of right around that mark. Whereas
Yes.
when I don't look at scoreboards, when I don't look at any leaderboards whatsoever, I tend to play much more to what I'm capable of playing. On that week, maybe that's 5 over par, but at least I've played to my capability on the week rather than to the score or what everyone else is playing. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yes,
sense?
it's almost like a limiting belief.
For
You
sure.
see that cut line and it almost becomes a magnet.
Yes, exactly.
And your golf game starts almost shaping towards it.
Correct. Yeah, and you go like, okay, where am I going to make the birdies to get to this cut line? Or how am I going to, you know, instead of just, this is the shot in front of me, that's the target, I need to hit the shot regardless, no matter what what's funny is I came second maybe a month ago now in one of the Sunshine Tour events, and I told myself, I'm just not going to look at any of the leaderboards. No leaderboards whatsoever, and I'm just going to play. Because whether I look at the leaderboard or not, I'm still trying to shoot the best possible score. Like, that doesn't change how I play the shot, you know? I'm trying to shoot the best score I can. And by looking at the leaderboard, I feel like it's a bit more of a hindrance than anything else. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, you need to know where you stand in the tournament because that's going to affect your decision making. But for me, it doesn't affect my decision making at all. Literally nothing. Whether I'm last place or second place or first place, that's not going to change how I play the shot that's in front of me. So, yeah.
So almost getting like present on the golf course. It seems like presence has been something that you've worked on that's really helped your game.
For sure. I think it's it's just understanding that the shot in front of you is the most important one. And I think that's kind of true of life too. Like sometimes people are thinking 5-6 steps ahead of themselves. You know, they get anxious about, oh, what am I going to do when this rolls around? Where it's like, that's still 5 steps further on in the ladder. Like you need to just climb this step and then this step and then this step. And when you look up, you're going to be like, oh, I got to where I was worried that I would never get to, you know?
But then there's always going to be another hurdle though. You know, as soon as you complete what you wanted to complete, maybe you wanted a top 20, you get a top 20. But then the next tournament, it's always more. And I think sometimes we never really look back and reflect on how well we've done. We always, I think, naturally programmed as human beings to want more.
For sure. I think for me, that's sometimes been a bit difficult to find the motivation in a 5-week stretch if I've played well in weeks 2 and 3. Then weeks 4 and 5, I don't quite have that same amount of oomph as what I need to. I sometimes feel like I maybe need to take bigger breaks between tournaments to just get that mental, like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready to perform, I'm ready to play my best. It feels like when I've played well, I want to just kind of go, okay, cool, I've played well, let's take a little break. Where that's just not the nature of golf. Like you have to put together an entire season. And if you are playing well, you need to maximize that moment in time where you are playing well, because there are going to be times where you're going to do a 6-week stint and you play crap in all 6 weeks, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, I think the recognition that the work is never done is like, in life, that's probably one of the most important understandings is you're never going to get a break. You're never going to get a break that's long enough. Like there's always going to be more work to do. And as soon as you're able to enjoy the work and enjoy what you're doing, then it makes it a little bit easier.
So they say when you do something that you're passionate about and all of a sudden you start making money from it, that passion sometimes dies. Did you ever find that with golf, that you lost your passion for, even if it was just for a brief period of time?
Maybe slightly when I was in college. There was a period where I was just really not playing as well as I wanted to. And every time I stepped up and played, I was just disappointed in myself. Like I was just frustrated that I couldn't do what I know I'm capable of doing. My swing wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a great space mentally with my coaches and my teammates. It didn't feel like a good fit. And you're just going through the motions a little bit. And I think that was probably the one of the few times where I was like, geez, is this actually what I want to do with my life? Like, I'm not sure if I'm good enough to do this. Funnily enough, when I came back home and kind of made a bit of progress at home and I felt like my game was in a good space, turning pro was probably the biggest motivation, like the biggest driving factor for me. And since I've turned pro to this day, I haven't felt one time where I've gone, oh, I don't know, I'm not super keen to go back and play again. At the end of the year, you're obviously a little bit tired, but it's like, okay, I'm ready to take a little bit break, like have a bit of time off, but I'm excited to get back again, even in the final event of the year, you know? So being a pro has been so fulfilling for me, which is, I'm really lucky that I have that in my life.
That's amazing. And in 2022, you won your first Sunshine Tour event, the Sunbet Challenge, Sabaya. Why was that such an emotional win for you?
I think it was emotional because in golf, you lose a lot. You can spend years losing, you know? And you feel like you're making progress when you come 5th, 4th, 3rd, whatever, but you're still technically losing. You're not winning. And when you do win, it's almost this like outpouring of emotion that you have inside of you that I honestly didn't even know I had that in me at the time. Like, I don't like to cry in public. I don't like to be emotional in public. And it just all came out because of all the work that you put in for so long. You know, it's not like, let's say tennis, where you're playing against another guy and you beat him on the day. Then you have won. You've won the game for the day, you know? In golf, you just don't have that. Like, you're competing against 144 other guys. If you have the best round of the day, like, that's exciting, but you're still not done with the 4-round tournament, you know? And I remember just feeling like this sense of relief of like, wow, this is what it feels like to actually let your hard work culminate in a win, you know? And yeah, it's crazy how much I felt that day. I wasn't even expecting to feel that way, honestly.
And playing in Durban, why was that such a special venue for you?
Yeah, so every time I go to Durban, to KZN, you know, Papa Sugolum is one of the really meaningful players of color in South Africa's history of golf, you know, and he was a phenomenal player who didn't quite get his opportunity at the time. It was obviously just not it wasn't in his favor to be the best player in South Africa. It wasn't a good look during apartheid, you know, for the government, for the golfing community, that it just wasn't in the cards. And he's always been a source of strength, of power to me, you know, seeing how he managed to play even despite all that. And in Durban specifically, he won the Natal Open. He was from Durban. He won the Natal Open, and he was given his trophy outside in the rain at Durban Country Club, you know, because it was a whites-only clubhouse. And, you know, it's obviously very sad, but it gives me a lot of strength that he was able to do that at the time. And whenever I go to Durban, you know, there was a tournament at Mount Edgecombe where they had like a poster of him and some information about him, and I was like, oh, like, it always he's just a very pertinent person to me whenever I go there. And yeah, when I won, I think I was sitting with my caddy. We were kind of waiting, expecting to be in a playoff actually, and he knew Papa is one of the older guys, and you know, just hearing the stories, hearing what they had to go through, I felt like it was important for me to say something, you know, during my speech, and it all kind of came pouring out. And I still feel a bit awkward, like watching the video of me talking about it, because I don't like to get emotional in public.
Yeah.
And like, it feels just strange to watch it, because when I was living it in the moment, like, I felt like there was someone else who was speaking through me. You know, there's this history of South African golfers who didn't get the opportunity to speak the way I got to speak. So it was very emotional on the day.
And you didn't make that about you at all, which I thought was really, really special. You had a very inspiring message, to future golfers and players of color. And I think that's, it was very cool to see that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I've always felt about my position in golf. Like, I feel like I'm one of a line of players throughout history, and hopefully I can add my little piece to that history. And I've always helped the guys who are kind of just going to be one step after me, guys like Europe Premlal, who just won last week. And it's so special to see someone like that win, because I've known him since he was 6 years old and I was 10, 11 years old, and he's like my little brother. So it means a lot to see that next generation, also succeeding too.
What were some of the sacrifices that maybe other people haven't seen along your journey?
I think so much of hard work and so much of sacrifice, so much of time where I could be just with friends, I could be with mates, and you can't if you want to get to the top level. Like, maybe I'm not quite as talented as some of the other guys, and I need that extra time to sit and reflect, and time to sit and think. Time with my parents, time with my coaches, where we've just had to really go through every single step methodically. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily have that support that I've had, which has been, I'm so grateful and so lucky to have had that. But at the same time, leaving home, going to America, playing college golf, you're a million miles away from anyone, who cares about you, who loves you, and all those things have made me a lot stronger as a person. And because of that, now tour golf doesn't feel as daunting,
And aside from when you're actually playing in a tournament, what does your average day look like?
So it would depend a lot on how soon the next tournament is. Would depend on what my practice looks like. But let's say I've got a block of 2 or 3 weeks off before the next event. It would be getting up. I don't like to do the crazy early stuff. 6:30, 7 o'clock wake up, get a full night's sleep so that I can really use the day effectively. And I like to gym in the morning. I feel like that just kind of gets the day started. You get a win immediately, do a full gym session, probably an hour long, come back, take a shower, either have breakfast before I gym or afterwards. And then I'm very fortunate to have a great performance coach who kind of sets up a lot of drills for me to do. And so I just run through a lot of those. And a lot of the time it's drills based on, okay, how many out of 10 can you get for this drill? How many putts can you make inside of 10 feet from this distance? And it really keeps me engaged. And that's been probably the last year or two. I've seen my best practice by having kind of these games, gamifying practice has made it just so much more enjoyable, and I can stay focused for much longer than I previously could. I'm not just hitting the same putt over and over again. I'm not just hitting one shot on the range. It makes it a little more entertaining and fulfilling, and I can do it for hours and hours and hours now, whereas previously it felt like, okay, I've done 1 hour of practice and I'm tired now. I don't really feel like I've gained enough from this. And now it feels like every single practice session I'm gaining a lot from.
That's really cool because you're not making it like work.
Yeah.
You're making it fun again.
Exactly.
And I feel like, at least for me, when I was a junior playing, I used to chip in the garden for like 2 or 3 hours a day, and I'd make my own little course in the garden, and I'd visualize like I was playing on an actual course, or this putt's to win the Masters kind of thing. And then as I got older, I feel like I've lost a little bit of that fun aspect. You start getting hard on yourself and you view the game in a different way sometimes.
For sure. I think the drills that I like the most are the ones that I didn't succeed at the first few times, where I'm like, geez, okay, like, why there's always these benchmarks, like 5 stars is win the tournament week with this result, and 1 star is maybe you should do this drill immediately again, right? And kind of 3 is average for pros, 4 is like very good result, 2 is maybe you should just do this drill again sometime throughout the week, And And I think having just kind of these benchmarks that I'm setting myself against has really just made my practice so much more entertaining and enjoyable. And when I fail, I'm going like, okay, well, clearly that's a part of my game that actually does need to improve. And when I've always found like some inner hunger from that, like going, okay, that part's actually not good enough and I need to improve that. That has always been I think my superpower in golf is going, okay, this is the part of my game that's not good enough. How do I work to improve that? And then eventually seeing the results down the line.
How has your fitness kind of impacted your ability on the course?
Very, very much so. So when I was in college, I kind of had a bit of a niggle in my hip that really bothered me, especially throughout my last year. And I came back home and it was really important for me to get strong and get fit. And I saw quite a lot of improvements in my strength and that was the start to improving, my hip. But it was, I always kind of felt like there was something around the corner that might hinder that, and also it being the left hip, like your internal rotation through the ball in golf, like if you don't have that, you're kind of screwed. You can't create power. You can't do enough. You've seen it with a guy like, let's say, Andy Murray in tennis. After he had a hip hop, he just kind of slowly faded away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so I didn't end up getting surgery on that. So I knew, okay, I need to strengthen this and get really, really strong. And I started working with a guy in the US and we were doing virtual sessions one-on-one. And I was lucky enough to go there and see him in person too. And so it's been such a great relationship that's kind of built over a long time. And it might not be what everyone else is doing in the gym, but I understand how it's improving me. I'm loading it up. I'm getting the strength gains I need, and that's all that matters. Yeah.
It sounds like you really trust your own process. You're not too worried about what everyone else is doing around you.
For sure. And I think that's kind of how I've always been. Like my route to improvement has been really like get involved and go down the rabbit hole and understand everything, then go, okay, what parts of that is important for me, not necessarily just everyone, what do I need to take out of this? And then from there, implementing a plan that's very simple and easy to follow, because it's great having information, but actually following through with it is more important than actually just having good information at the end of the day. So yeah, I do feel like I am quite individually focused, especially when I have the internal buy-in as to what, like, I understand why this is going to improve me, then it's really easy for me to not care what anyone else thinks.
So Tiger used to talk a lot about visualization, where he would almost see the trajectory of the ball. How much is it going to fade? Where's it going to land? What impact has visualization had on your success on the golf course?
A lot. One of the things that I've done now for quite some time, probably 3 or 4 years, while I'm playing tournaments and especially in the like pressure situations, again, first of all, like trying to take away the context of pressure, eventually going to get there with myself, but the understanding the visualization process. And for me, the thing that works the best is I literally transport myself to the range while I'm on the golf course and hit that shot as I would hit a shot on the range, which I think some people have this problem where they're like, oh, I can't take my range game to the course. Well, just take yourself back to the range on the golf course, and that's really helped a lot. And it just takes away, again, the context of the shot. Like, you're just on an open range and you're just going to hit your shot, like your stock shot that you need to hit. And that's been super helpful. And then recently I decided to do the same thing for putting. Like, imagine myself on the practice putting green doing my performance drills that I do there, and just take that same like sensations or feelings and put that on the golf course too. And it sounds simple, and I think I make it quite simple, which is nice. Like, sometimes it's easier just to oversimplify something and just create this like illusion in your brain that that's what's going on, and it's worked great so far. So yeah.
What aspect of your game have you put the most work into in the last, let's say, year?
Putting and chipping for sure. I'm quite rigorous about my stats. I think that's just the easiest way to understand where you're at as a golfer. Like, have something objective that can tell you the truth of who you are. You know, it's very easy to lie to yourself and believe that you're good at something when you're actually not. You know, I'm a very positive person. I want to see the best in myself. And stats has been a very grounding experience almost, you know, neither negative nor positive, just the truth of what's going on. And it was quite clear that I need to work on my short game. You know, it needs to improve. And I've done a decent job, and I can see the fruits of my labor, especially in my ceiling for putting. Like, I have days where I'm like, whoa, that's very impressive. Like, I'm putting the dimples off it. Like, I'm really putting nicely. And then there's some days where I'm still, you know, not quite as good as I'd like to be. But the positive is that the floor is also raised a little bit. My worst putting days are not as bad as what they once were. And I can see the different buckets of improvement I needed to go down with putting is not just, okay, let's putt and let's see what happens. Like, I needed to think about mentally how to improve. I needed to think about physical technique, how to improve, my green reading process, my pace. Like, there's so many different buckets that go into just like improving this one aspect of golf. And that's why I don't think I'll ever run out of passion for it, because there's just so much improvement to make in the game.
I think golf's just such a mental game at the end of the day. And we've seen a big increase in like sports psychologists, and, you know, the mental side is talked about a lot more. Was there almost like a mindset shift that you had that just changed your career trajectory?
For sure. I think it was centered a lot around the course management stuff. I'd say in the last 3 years, I've probably become a worse ball striker. Not by a lot, but, you know, slightly worse. But my scoring average has improved significantly, like probably a shot and 1.2, 1.3 shots, which is the difference between being kind of mid-table on Sunshine Tour and pushing to get your DP World Tour card, you know? And it was kind of centered around understanding that this is a shotgun sport. This is not a rifle. Like, you aim it at one spot, and from there, you have a dispersion. Like, it's never going to be perfect. There's no way to be perfect in golf, you know? You can imagine the shot exactly how you want it to, but as long as you understand there's this range of outcomes and you're just aiming your gun at the range of outcomes, it makes it a lot easier to accept good and bad throughout the round. You know, your expectations become a little bit lower of yourself, and you can just play golf a bit more freely without that weight of expectations on you, you know?
So you speak about putting and, you know, the importance of short game. So I read a book a while ago, believe it or not. I don't actually read that many books. Dr. Bob Rotella.
Yeah.
So he's, obviously you'll know, but he's a sports psychologist, and he helps a lot of, you know, the top golfers. And he had a book called Putting Out of Your Mind. And that kind of changed my perspective on putting, because I was kind of one of those people where I would build a story in my head. So let's say I've got a 1 meter putt. I'm telling myself how important it is to make that putt, or how I want to make a par instead of a bogey. You know, you don't want to drop a shot on this hole and whatever. And his book really just changed my mindset on putting, because even for long putts, I was told from like a young age, make that hula hoop around the hole when you lag putting. And my perspective actually changed after reading that book, because it said every putt that you have should be a putt that you're looking to make. As soon as you're saying, oh, let me try, lag it up there, get it close, whatever, you're already putting that doubt in your mind that you're not going to sink it.
For sure. It's interesting, because I lean the other way with lag putting. So I know the stats will tell you that outside of 33 feet, which is 11 meters, the PGA Tour average is 2.01. So more 3 putts than 1 putt from 33 feet, 11 meters. And because of that, by two putting from that distance, you're gaining on the best players in the world from that distance, right? And anything outside of that, obviously, the same. And because of that, just understanding that, okay, my pace needs to be perfect. Pace is king outside of 33 feet. And honestly, inside of 33 feet, probably a 50-50 split between pace and line. And every inch you can get it closer to the hole, the better. But holing it is like phenomenal. Like your odds of holing it is so low that it's almost not worth it to put that pressure on your mind of like, okay, I need to hold this putt, you know? And based on that, understanding that 50% of my putts need to be left short from 33 feet and 50% needs to be passed because I need to center the middle of the hole as my dispersion. Like anything, a lot of people will, I've seen even on tour, like people will set up a alignment stick behind the hole, 3 feet past the hole and hit putts where, okay, if I don't get it to the hole, then I need to start my drill again. Well, you're technically centering past the hole instead of the middle of the hole, you know? And it's strange how different mindsets, like I think that hula hoop is a great analysis, like a great mindset, because that stops you from having that that like, oh, I need to get it past the whole mindset from 33 feet. I think that kills a lot of golfers, like get it past the hole. And there's guys on tour who I've helped with their putting and have tried to explain to them, it really, like, it's a tough thing to grapple with, that you need to leave putts short to be a better putter. Like, that's a very difficult thing to wrap your mind around, that leaving putts short outside of 10 meters is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Why? Because
you only have whatever, let's say a 10% vertical dispersion. Let's call that from 33 feet, that's 3.3 feet of dispersion. Okay. If you're middle of the, if you're saying I need to get every ball to the hole, then the back end of your dispersion is 3.3 feet away from the hole, right? You're going to miss 3.3 footers. That's just the nature of golf. You're not going to make all of those, right? But if I can say the middle of your dispersion is the hole, you've got 1.5 feet and 1.5 feet, you're not going to miss as many 1.5 footers as you are 3.3 footers, right? Sure. So that's a really tough thing to grapple with, and I still struggle with that sometimes myself. But the stats are the stats, and that's the empirical facts of what we're doing here. How you create your mindset around that's different for different people.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is that the best putters in the world will leave roughly 40 to 50% of putts short outside of 33 feet.
But then surely that affects your mindset. You know, when you hit one just in the throat and it kind of stops just before, doesn't that kind of play with your mind? Like, oh, why didn't I give it a go?
Sure, I understand that, but overall, outside of 33 feet, I kind of group putting as two different sports: lag putting and inside of that range where you're trying to make the putt, right? Outside of that lag putting range, two putting is a great result.
Yeah.
And make the mindset of making a putt will lead people to put putts too far past the hole and miss the one coming back. And I see it in pro golf all the time.
Yes.
All the time. And 3 putts, double bogeys, and 6s on par 5s will end your golfing career. Like, too many of those things, and you're not going to keep a card on whatever tour you're on. And that's a harsh reality, but if you look at the PGA Tour, the best putters in the world are averaging 0.3 3 putts per round. So 1 3-putt every 3 rounds of golf. I urge any golfer to just keep track of how many 3 putts they have in 1 round of golf, and understand that 3 putts will just, reducing 3 putts will shave strokes off your round that you don't even think you need to shave off your round, basically.
What advice do you have for future generations of young golfers?
I think the first thing I would say is pay attention to innovation. Pay attention to what's going on in technology, because if you're an early adopter, you can get ahead of people that you're probably not as talented as. If you are a smart person who's willing to go through the full process of understanding something, you can beat someone who's more talented than you. And there's not a lot of sports that you can say that about, right? Like if you play a tennis match, the better players, the more talented players probably going to win. You know? Soccer, it's the same. You know, athletics, the same guy is going to win the 100-meter sprint every single time if you put them against each other, right? Or the same three are going to be grouped in the top three, right?
Rugby, if you put me against Eben Etzebeth,
I don't think you're winning
every single time. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think like being a nerd in golf is something that's maybe more beneficial than in other sports, right? So have a really true understanding of your golf game and do the things that you maybe feel are unimportant and are not as pretty or sexy. Like, it doesn't take a lot of talent to keep track of your stats. Like, it takes zero talent to do that. It doesn't take a lot of talent to do a full warm-up before you play around the golf. It doesn't take a lot of talent to go on Google Earth and have a look at the course before you get to it. Like, these are things that require just hard work, and you can push yourself to a level that's beyond anyone else, you know?
How important is distance? Because I think a lot of people it's almost like a egotistical thing, but a lot of people want more distance. But I think as soon as you go into the pro side of things, distance becomes a lot more important.
Distance is king. And within a certain dispersion, right? If you can increase your club head speed by 5 miles an hour, you're probably going to make more birdies. Like, that's just the nature of it, right? And I've seen it with myself. Like, I've seen times in my career where I've hit it further and you just have more birdie opportunities. That's just the simple nature of it. But I don't think it's everything. There's kind of a cutoff point that most amateur golfers will never get to. Like 190 miles an hour ball speed is like anything more than that, the ball starts to rebound too many times against the face. It gets very complicated, but your dispersion gets too big. And so there's this kind of range of ball speeds, I'd say from like 175 to 190, where the best players in the world live. Anything more, you'll see Bryson is now kind of toned back, not like way back to where it's all about control and accuracy. There's still a big element of distance, but he was looking for materials for the golf ball to make it more manageable at those high speeds, and he didn't really find it, so he's just said, okay, I'll just cut back a little bit on my speed. So distance is a big part of it. I don't think it's everything. There are phenomenal golfers. Someone like Scotty Scheffler is quick. Like, there's kind of this analogy of buying a ticket to the show. You need a certain ball speed to buy a ticket to the show, and then after that, those guys who have bought the tickets, it's the best iron players, the best putters, and the best chippers, right? So it's not everything, but it's a big part of it.
That's very cool. I like that analogy. And I've actually got a quote for you. So it's a Bobby Jones quote.
Sure.
Golf is the closest game to the game we call life. You get bad breaks from good shots. You get good breaks from bad shots. But you have to play the ball as it lies.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because a year ago, I went to the Alfred Daniel Links, and it's Mr. Johan Rupert's tournament, right? So obviously he gets a chance to speak and, you know, say hello to everyone, and that's the exact quote that he brought up, you know. And I think people don't quite understand that golf isn't a fair sport. There's going to be so much variance in it. I can only do as much as I can do, and then we don't play golf on a pool table. Like, we don't play golf on a tennis court. Like, it's not perfect conditions all the time. There is little bounces and breaks that will affect how the ball goes, but can I believe that I've done the best to my ability, and then the rest is up to the golfing gods. Like, things happen. The ball is round. Like it's not a sport where perfect is an option, really.
What has golf taught you about life?
So much. I think patience. So much patience. I think you probably have to be more patient in golf than in life, honestly. It's frustrating how patient you have to be. But also understanding that hard work pays off over a long period of time. It won't just pay off immediately. Golf is just not a short-term gains type of sport almost ever, you know? And that's life too. Like, you need to do good things consistently well for a long period of time, and then you'll reap the rewards that you deserve, you know? And I think golf makes it easy to have that mindset.
Dylan, I've loved this conversation, and it feels like it's gone in literally 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But my final question for you is, what legacy would you like to leave behind?
I think I want to leave a legacy of someone who has helped others, help people who don't have the opportunities that I've had in my life. Help my friends, help the people that I care about. Be someone who people can turn to if they need advice, if they need, anything. I'll honestly do anything for the people I care about, you know? And I think that's hopefully what I can leave behind. Hopefully I can leave behind trophies and great things for my kids and for my family. But at the end of the day, have I helped people along the way, and have people gained something from me? Have I helped inspire people going forward? Have I given them real actionable stuff that they can also do too? It's a difficult question because when you start playing golf, you don't think about your legacy and what you want to leave behind. You think about playing this game that I love, you know? Yeah. And over the last few years, that's something that I've had to think about much more than I had when I started playing golf.
Well, I think one thing that definitely shines through is you are super authentic, and you've got a very caring, good heart to you. And yeah, I just want to thank you for today. It was such a cool conversation, from the ice bath in the morning to here now. I mean, it's just been an awesome day and such a cool experience. So thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, bud. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.